Good morning. I am Geneva Moores. I'm the Nova East Odyssey of the Mind treasurer, and we also have Pam Wilkie. Do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Pam Wilkie, and I do work with registrations, but Geneva actually works actively with registrations, so she's going to be guiding us through this today.
Yeah, so Pam is.
If there is a problem, ping me, and I will take care of whatever problems you've got.
Right. So we're sort of both trying to help people as much as required, and I know that it's kind of a bewildering process the first time you do it. And there's also some trickinesses in terms of the judges and the volunteers registering. Make sure that so the way the process works is you register a judge, or rather the judge registers themselves. And once the judge is registered, then you can register a team. Now you can do a pre-registration, but generally speaking, we haven't really recommended that. What we recommend is, and there are links on our website. So if you go to registration on our website, there is a judge registration link. And this is our Nova East Odyssey website, and the registration check at the top. And once you get to the judge registration, it'll look something like this. If you've logged in, it'll pre-populate some information. And so maybe I should get rid of Pam's information so you guys know. Anyway, unfortunately, it defaulted to that because I'm currently logged in as Pam. But basically, when a judge would come to this link, it would look like this, and they would enter their name and their contact information and what size t-shirt. So for every judge, we provide a t-shirt so that they're readily identifiable at the tournament. And part of the cost that's paid for the tournament registration goes to making sure that all the judges have t-shirts and that the judges have food. A judge is going to have to participate for 2 full days. They will have training on February 25th, and that's an all-day training session based on their job preferences that they select. So these job preferences don't necessarily have to have any bearing on the problem that the team they're associated with is doing. So these are meant to be their preferences for what jobs they would like to do when they're at the tournament. And then based on the selections that they put here, they will get assigned a particular job. And when they go to training in February 25th, they will get training which is specific to that job. And so it's really important for a judge to fill out their own registration so that they can put in the things that they would prefer to do. And then once they've picked something, like let's suppose I wanted to be on problem 1, which is the vehicle problem, I would then pick what I would prefer to be on that. And there are a whole bunch of different roles that judges can be. The head judge is, presumably, if you're new, you would not select head judge, but a head judge is sort of in charge of all the judges for a particular room. And so generally speaking, they would be pre-selected by our judge coordinator, Dawn. And then a problem judge is someone who's going to become an expert on the details of the problem, and they will be looking out for the problem elements. So in the problems that you're working on, you'll see that you're required to have a particular announcer, or you're required to have a particular background or a particular sign. The problem judge will be looking for those elements, or maybe your vehicle is supposed to hit an obstacle or whatever. Then they will be the ones sort of responsible for checking whether or not the team does that particular action. A style judge is one going to be in charge of watching for those style elements and how well they integrate with the rest of the problem. A staging judge is going to be the one checking that everyone has their paperwork and that they all have shoes on and that they know where their coach is and that we have the coach's cell phone number in case there's any concerns later on, etc. So that's what a staging judge would be doing. A timer announcer would be the one who would welcome everybody, all of the audience members, to the particular performance. And then they would be, start the stopwatch or use their phone and start their phone stopwatch. And at the end of 8 minutes, they would be calling time. And there are a bunch of other instructions. And then no preference would be no preference. So those are the kinds of roles that a problem judge would perform. A spontaneous judge has only 3 selections. So they are either going to be escorting people so what happens in spontaneous, and this is not relevant to primary teams don't do spontaneous, but for division 1, 2, 3, 4, there are spontaneous problems. And for the spontaneous, there are 2 sets. There are spontaneous judges who actually sit in the room with the kids and actually do the judging there. And then there are holding room spontaneous who basically are responsible for escorting the kids from the holding room into the problem room, and at the end of the problem, from the problem room back to the coaches, because coaches are not allowed in the spontaneous room during the competition. And then no preference, obviously. There are one other, so primary is slightly different than the problem judges. There's 2 roles. They basically, there's typically 3 problem judges and maybe 1 head judge that are responsible for the primary problem judging. And they are really, their goal of a primary judge is to admire what the kids have accomplished and to encourage the kids and make them feel good about what they did. So primary is trying to be a feel good kind of environment. And so we don't have judges that are really honing in on the points and whether or not they did whatever elements that they did. And then the last judge type is someone who might want to be in a score room. There are kind of 2 main roles there. One is a data entry role where they're going to basically type in the scores as they come in from the problem rooms, or a runner who's going to be collecting things and running and between the score rooms. So the runner will have a lot of walking, and the data entry will be sitting at a desk computer in a secret room that no one will know about. So those are the roles. And so again, I really think it's important to make sure that the judge registers themselves. You can talk to them about the kind of roles and what they might do, but it's really important that they fill in their information. They can say, how many years of experience they have. If they're brand new, obviously they would say none. Now, the next most important thing from the purposes of a judge registration, for a judge who is representing a team, is this section here. Are you representing a team? Because this is how you unlock the ability for a team to register. So are you representing a team? Here's where you would click yes. So again, this is where the coach information, the coach name, the membership, the problem, membership name. So when I am working with judges to do their registration, I make sure that they have all this information readily at their fingertips so they don't enter it incorrectly. Because if any of this information here is entered incorrectly, then you will be sending email to Pam or me to fix it.
and that's probably 90% of the problem right there. That one click will solve most of our problems.
Exactly. So that is the most important thing to do. And again, the information that is entered here does not necessarily relate to their preferences. They could be representing a team doing a primary problem, but really want to work in the score room, or they really want to learn about spontaneous, and so it'd be really fun to do spontaneous. Or their problem, their team might be doing problem 1, the vehicle problem, but they're really interested in the balsa problem, so they can select what they want to do, which is independent and different from what which team they're representing. Then the second thing is whether or not they have any relatives competing. And why do we do this? Because we work hard and or Dawn works hard. I don't do anything about that, but Dawn spends a lot of time making sure that that everything is fair. And by that, we generally try to avoid putting parents of kids in the same room as where they're going to be judged, because we're trying to make sure that there's limited bias in how the teams are being judged. And then the last little section is just if you've coached before, what you've done before. Because if you're really good, like on the problem 4, there's a weigh-in judge. If you've done a weigh-in judge before, then it probably makes sense to put you in weigh-in judge again. But if you're brand new, this isn't relevant. And then here's another very important thing for a judge to fill out. They should put, if they have any restrictions, whether they're just if they have a severe peanut allergy, or if they have they can't do stairs, or something like that, where basically just so that when we try to assign them their position, we make sure that if they have a hard time walking, that we don't assign the position of runner. So then and that is really the main thing about registering a judge. So once you have a judge registered, then you can register your team. And so for registering your team, what you will do is you will log into this member area. So the way you come to odysseyofthemind.com, and presumably all of you have logged into the member area before, and because you presumably you've gotten the long-term problem details from here and things like that. Once you've logged in here, then you would click on tournament registration. And once you get to tournament registration, you are going to presumably only see one selection here, which is the Region 11 Nova East Tournament. And then you will select the problem that you want to register, like whatever problem it is, if it's primary Dinos on Parade, or if it's problem 1. And then you will, so for a primary, there's no division that can be selected here, but the first primary team that is registered comes in as primary team 1, and the second one comes as primary team 2. And so, as you can have you can have up to 3 primary teams associated to your membership, and so they then would be numbered 1, 2, 3. But you can't actually select that. But it's just know in the background that there really are. They really do have a little number next to them, so that when people go register, they should make sure they pick the right one.
Geneva, in past years, we have had the primary team 1 actually put Division 1. And then when there
but you can't do that anymore. Like now you can't select the division.
Oh, they've changed.
Yeah, that changed. So what they're gonna, it's the first judge to register for the primary. So if we go back, I guess if I go forward, if we go back to the judge registration, if they say they're representing a team, then they select primary. It is true that the judge would put a number here.
Okay.
And so it's good to assign your primaries, and let's see up to 12, but really we allow 3 per membership. So what you should do is number your primary teams, and then make sure that you have judges signing up for those numbers. The only caveat being that the first, it's, you can't really select it on the registration, and so sometimes we might have issues with that. But if you give them numbers, then it does make it a little bit easier in terms of how they would fill out the judge registration. Okay, now when I click next, it's going to say you can't do this. Before proceeding, your judge needs to register, and then there's a whole bunch of information about the tournament here. And then let's see if we can get to the next step. Oh, looks like Campbell has a primary. So I won't actually do the registration because then Campbell will be stuck. But basically, once you get to this, you'll see the tournament registration will look something like this. You will put in, the coach will put in all of their coach information, all of their school information, how many other coaches they have, because then they will enter the information for that, and then how many team members they have, up to 7, obviously. If you have a primary team and you actually have 8 team members, because we do allow 8 on the primary problem, what you would do is just in the notes, you would just add the 8th person in the notes.
Yeah. And one additional thing, you can, once you've started your working on your long-term problem, you cannot add more people to your let's see, help me.
Well, basically, the point is if you started with 5, you can
Right.
add a 6 and a 7. If you
6 and a
started
7.
with 7 and one
Yes.
person dropped out, you can't replace them. That's the main
Right.
rule, is that you're stuck with 7 brains, and as long as you've not added 7 brains, then you can add more brains. But if you've had 7 brains, then you can't replace them.
And
That's
if you've you can add two people, and if you do and you haven't registered them, get in touch with me and I can add their names, and that's important in case your team wins and goes on to the next level.
Right. So if, for instance, you registered with 5 and then you picked up a 6th person, but your registration only has 5, we can help get the 6th person added. But generally speaking, we sort of recommend that your team is your team, and messing around with membership once you've started is really kind of a concern. Okay, then the other really important thing is if your team has any disabilities, such as peanut allergies or ADA types of things, we really need to know that so that we can make sure we take that into account. Like we've had in the past, we've had a peanut-free spontaneous room and things like that. We just want to make sure that the kids are as safe as possible. So it's really important to put any disabilities or health concerns here, or if you have someone who's diabetic and you need to make sure, et cetera. We want to make sure that we have that sort of thing taken into account. And then the other thing to talk about is if you have a team member who is participating on multiple teams, which is generally relatively rare in our region, but it does happen in other regions. You want to make sure that we know about scheduling conflicts, because if you have a coach who's coaching 2 teams, we need to know that so that the coach can be in both long-term problems. And so it's really important. Those 2 boxes are extremely important for us. And then once you fill that information out, then you will fill out all the team information, the team members, and I think if I go to next, it won't let me go to the next one, but once you get to the next one, it basically is just a long list of team members and their contact information. And then that's it. Then you'll get a login, a team login, and you would use that team login to, when you get to here, if you go to member resources and when you go to log in, there's member login is the membership number that you will use to get in to register. Once you have a team login, you can use a team login to go log in. And that team login would then enable you to, if you need to update some notes, or if you needed to later on, if you got to, if you won and you were going on to the next level, then you would use that team login to register for the state tournament, etc. So I think that's it. I don't know, Pam, did I miss anything?
I think that's it. I was trying to catch any little small things as you went, but it was very thorough.
Okay. Are there any questions from the audience?
Hey, this is Michelle from Claremont. Thank you so much. This was really helpful. And I thank you for recording it, because I think it's important that I'm just going to talk to my coaches and judges and that they could watch this and then do it correctly. We do have, at least two coaches at Claremont who are coaching 2 teams. So that was important to hear that.
Okay.
Yeah, make sure that you know that.
Right.
So thank you. This has been really helpful. I appreciate it.
Yeah, the only last little thing that that might actually be useful to know is if there are kind of 2. So aside from the fact that the judge needs to be there on February 25th and March 25th, and that they will probably not see their team, unfortunately, but people can record as long as the team allows recordings. But the other thing we need volunteers, and the volunteers are only a 2-hour commitment on the time, and the volunteers help us with like registration desk or concession stand or traffic, helping traffic, or like running around various ways. So if you once you have, your judge and your team registered, is really important to get, or about the same time, try to register your volunteer. Now, we don't need 1 volunteer per team. We need 1 volunteer per 3 teams. So if you have a membership and you're sending 4 teams, you would need 2 volunteers. If you have a membership and you're sending 6 teams, you would still only need 2 volunteers. And again, it's a pretty small commitment. It's about 2 hours. Okay, so that was my last little point.
I had one more question for you.
Go ahead.
So we have one Division I team that I think they're a little bit further behind our other teams, and they're now in full speed ahead, but I'm not positive that they've chosen their problem yet. If they choose a problem that another team's already doing, that means we have to buy a second whole membership, right?
Yes.
That work.
Yeah.
I mean, I should
Well,
just-
as long as, unless your other teams are Division II. So if they're all Division I teams, yes, you only get one Division I team per problem on a membership. So you could have 5, Division I teams as long as they're all doing the 5 different problems. You could have 5 Division I, 5 Division II, 5 Division III, but you know, the eligibility for those other divisions is based on age. So
okay, I'll let you know if that ends up happening rather than make you go through all that now, because
yeah,
it
okay,
hasn't happened yet, but I'm not sure that it won't. Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
yep. Okay, any other questions? From
Hi,
anyone?
good morning. So
Linda.
back on your judges registration page, if you could go back there.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so you did answer one of my questions about, are you representing a team? And I think you said yes, and there's, for primary, we're primary. There was the drop down of the division, and you said that we just sort of have to sort it out at our school if we have multiple teams going to assign somebody 1 and 2.
Yeah,
But on the
1, 2,
next-
3. Yeah.
The next drop down, do you have any children? I feel like the division thing was different. I can't see it right now, but yeah, dinos.
Yeah,
and
so
then-
it again, I mean, again, ideally
number?
they would same numbers. Yeah, so they just think about like labeling your primaries as 1, 2, 3 or whatever, and then telling people which one they want to put they're on, because nominally it's kind of like division, but it is actually just a problem number. It's just a team number.
Okay,
So-
so will a judge that's judging primary, for example, will they'll judge primary all day long?
Correct.
So
Yes.
primary, and will primary teams that come in to do their little skit, will they have the same judges as the people in the morning? They'll have the same judges in the afternoon.
Yeah, so basically we set it up, so at the tournament, we've typically had 8 or 9 problem rooms, let's call them. And those 8 problem one, you know, there's 3 for primary, and there's 1 for problem 1 and 1 for problem 2 and whatever. So we have, like, depending on how many teams registered. So if we have a room, a primary room, in that primary room, there would be the 3 problem judges and 1 head judge that would be responsible for, you know, making sure that the kids are ready to go, and there might be a staging judge or whatever, but then those judges will be set in that room for the whole day. And they will meet each other at the training, and they will get to know each other at the training. And so they will, you know, say, hey, you know, nice to see you again, kind of thing. So they're going to build some kind of bonds, some sort of judging bonds at the training session, so that then they're ready to go as a team. So they become the team that stays in that room for the whole day. Does that make sense?
It does, but so then in terms of me trying to recruit somebody, if one of my parents says, sure, I'll do this, but I only want to judge primary, they wouldn't be allowed to, or would they?
Oh, no, absolutely. So they can put, what they would do is they would come in and they say, I really want to judge primary, and I really want to be a problem judge. And I, you know, I still, like, I don't know. I mean, ideally they would put something else just in case we needed something else. And then maybe they put score room, or maybe they put spontaneous, and they, you know, pick one of these. But it's because for primary, there's really only one job. But in any case, so they selected primary as their job preference 1, and then they would still put primary as they're representing a team, and they would still put primary if they have people competing. But now Dawn knows that they want to be a primary judge. Now, if we have 2 rooms or 3 rooms for primary, even if they're judging primary, they might get their own team, but chances are they will be assigned to a different room, so that their kids, they might see them in the hallway if they're coming out between problems, you know, between problems, but for the most part, they would not see their own team, even if they're judging primary. Does that make sense?
It does. How long, if I have somebody that does select primary, how long is the day of judging? Is it a shorter day?
We don't know yet this year, because we don't know how many teams are going to register, because the last couple of years of, I mean, previous to the pandemic, we would know pretty readily what would happen, and we would typically have four primary rooms, and they would typically get out, you know, at 2 o'clock, and then they would be done for the day. But this year, we don't know how many teams we're going to have registered. We're in a new venue. We don't know how many problem rooms we're going to be running. So we really don't have a clear idea about that. But people, once we get to the judge training, we'll have a better idea of how many kids are going to be in a given room, and we won't have the schedule until about 2 weeks before the tournament, but we'll be able to get a better idea of how long. But you know, the rooms, you should plan the entire day. The bottom line is you should plan you're going to be there from early in the morning until 3 or 4 in the afternoon, sometimes even 5. Not generally past 5 though.
And that's not typically for primary. Primaries typically has
ended early, but if we if we don't have enough to run 3 rooms, then we run 2 rooms, and the 2 rooms will be running long days. And it also depends on, like, if we have fewer teams and we need to double up the judges more, and we don't have enough judges to support 4 rooms, then we might only do 2 rooms for that reason. So and then there was also some discussion about moving the primary teams to competing in the afternoon so that we don't have parking problems, because Wakefield's parking lot is pretty small. So we really don't know what exactly is going to happen yet. So stay tuned. Any other questions?
So just a logistics question. How long does it typically take for this video? Because I want to send a message to my coaches and the volunteer judges and ask them to watch this themselves rather than me try to relay, because you all did such a great job. How long does it typically take?
Well, we'll try to get it up there today. I mean, this morning or something like that.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? How are things going otherwise? All right. Well,
Geneva, I think you did a great job. Thank you for getting into the weeds and providing all that detail.
Yeah, no problem. Anyone else want to say anything? Otherwise, I don't.
We can probably close out the video.
Yeah, I think we can close out the video. Well, I'll just leave it until we actually close out the meeting. I mean, it's fine. But if we don't have any more questions, I mean, you guys are free to drop off if you're done asking questions.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Thank you.
Okay,
bye everybody. See you in March.
Good luck to you guys. Bye. Thanks for joining. All right, I am gonna stop recording.